Okay. My name is Andrew Choi. I'm the acting planning program manager at the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. With me tonight, we have other department staff along with consultants. So from the planning office, we have Perlene Fukuba, who is the Oahu Island liaison for the planning office. We also have Darrell Ng from the Land Development Division, who is the project manager for this project. We have consultants from Gray Hong and Nojima, Toby Hanazawa, and Cheryl Nojima from Gray Hong and Nojima. So we will be going over where we are in the planning project and give you hopefully good information and an opportunity to ask questions or share your mana'o at the end of the presentation. So with that, next slide. I think for most of us participating tonight, we've been on multiple Zoom meetings. So this control should look familiar to you. But just a general housekeeping, if you are not talking, please try to keep yourself on mute, so that will help to eliminate any of the background noise, like your neighbor cutting grass or the dogs barking. There are two ways to ask questions this evening. You can either type your question in the chat and we will try to get to your question in the chat, or at the very least, your question will be recorded and we can answer it in the notes if we do not have time to get to it. And the other way is you can raise your virtual hand and we will call on you to ask your question verbally. And then also, please keep in mind, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on the department's website for record keeping and for others who may not have been able to attend this evening, but are still interested in the project, so that they can view the presentation and what occurred during the meeting. Next slide. Also, I just noticed that he joined us. I'd like to acknowledge Chair William Ayla for joining us this evening. Thank you, Chair, for taking the time to join us this evening. Thanks. And then our meeting kuleana this evening, this is just kind of our protocol to make sure that we have a respectful conversation this evening. I'm sure most of us practice this in our daily lives anyway, but just be respectful of the person talking. Try not to interrupt. Wait for the facilitator to call on you. I will be your facilitator this evening, so I will call on you if I see your virtual hand up or if you type a question in the chat box. When addressing other participants, either in the chat box or verbally, please be respectful, show aloha, and treat others how you would like to be treated. Please remember that others might have different perspectives and opinions than yourself, so let's just agree that we might have some disagreements, but let's not be disagreeable. Please have an open mind and have the goal of taking home new ideas or information tonight. And that goes both for our beneficiary participants as well as department staff. Next slide. So real quickly, here is our agenda for this evening. We just completed the welcome and introductions. Next up, we'll be giving a quick overview of the background of this project. We'll give an overview of the planning and development schedule, current and future additional site investigations and studies. We'll be talking about the draft environmental assessment, abbreviated EA, and what that draft environmental assessment has found and how you can comment on that draft environmental assessment. Lastly, we'll quickly go over next steps in the planning process and development process. And then, as I mentioned earlier, then there will be an opportunity for anyone who may have questions or comments to share those with us. With that, and the purpose of tonight's meeting is, one, we just wanted to go over the status of the project. As I mentioned, this is the second meeting on this project that we're having with community. The first meeting, for those of you who might have attended, was held on June 22nd last year. For those of you who didn't have an opportunity to attend, no worries, we will catch you up on what was covered and where we're going forward, how we're going forward. And then we'll share with you the proposed site plan for this new homestead development. And once again, the project schedule. Next slide. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Daryl Ng of our Land Development Division, who will give an overview of the project background.
Aloha, everyone. Can we have the next slide? Okay, this is the location of the project. It's shaded in yellow. It's off of from Farrington Highway. You take St. John's Road to get to the area. Right now, the Ulukekakui former transitional housing project would be your first landmark as you come off of St. John's. Next slide, please. A quick overview of the history. Early history from the late 1800s. There was cattle ranching, then sugar cultivation. In the mid 1900s, the military took over, and that's where we get the Voice of America name. It was a former transmitting site. In 2010, 85 acres was conveyed to the state from the US government when they closed down the Voice of America site. And in 2011, DHHL then acquired the 85 acres from Department of Land and Natural Resources in a land swap. This couple of years ago, we acquired the last 5 acres from the US government. Those 5 acres had been excluded from the original transaction to do some hazardous material remediation. That was completed and land was turned over to us. Next, please. This is an overview of the existing developments. As I mentioned before, Ulukekakui was a former transitional housing project. The general lease on that expired in 2019, and the lands came back to Hawaiian Homelands. While that conveyance back to us was going on, we issued a request for proposals to redevelop the land. As a rental project. We got a developer, Hawaiian Community Development Board, to finance and renovate the project. They're now going through their financing entitlements, trying to get low-income housing tax credits, as well as a private loan. This renovation is at no cost to the department.
Hey, Doc. Okay.
The idea behind that project is to provide short to medium term rentals for our beneficiaries. One of the ideas is that people can move into rental apartments which have lower rental rates and either clear up existing debts or use that extra cash to build up a down payment for future projects coming up. The small little area behind that, Hu'umalo o Nakamali'i, is an emergency receiving home, and it's operated by the Department of Human Services. That lease will expire in about 7 years, 2028. Last but not least, about half the overall project property is under general lease to Kamehameha Schools. They've developed a portion of that for their Kamehameha Schools Community Learning Center at Māʻili. Next slide, please. These are the two alternatives presented at the last beneficiary consultation meeting. One first alternative was all single family lots, which would result in about 200 lots. And the other was a combination of single family and multifamily lots, roughly about 280 units. Next. I think this goes back to Andrew or Perlene.
I'll take it. So as we mentioned, the last consultation meeting was held last June. Based on the feedback that we got from that meeting, most of the participants at that meeting indicated to us that multifamily was the preferred alternative. And some of the other reasons why the department selected the multifamily alternative was that it provides more dwelling units compared to alternative one, about 80 units more than the first alternative. It also allows for more affordable residences, providing additional opportunities to serve a greater number of beneficiaries who may not be financially qualified for a single family house. And lastly, a similar point, the multifamily units may offer a rental opportunity for those that are not ready for home ownership. So those were the reasons why we are proposing that the multifamily unit is the preferred alternative. Next slide. So once again, this is what we're proposing to be the preferred alternative based on the input that we had at beneficiary consultation number 1, as well as for the other reasons I just stated. Next slide. So I will pass it on to Toby, who will give a schedule update.
So good evening, everyone. So as Andrew mentioned, my name is Toby Hanzawa, and I'm with Gray Hong Nojima Associates, and we are the civil engineer working on this project. And I would also like to introduce Cheryl Nojima from my office, who is also in attendance in this Zoom meeting, and she is also involved with the project. Just first off, we were selected back in 2018 to work on the project in this preliminary and planning engineering phase. We are the overall project manager of a team with other consulting firms, which are 9 in total, that are involved with the preliminary design effort. So in the next slide, I'll just go over a quick schedule update of the environmental assessment process, followed by a summary of the draft environmental assessment and also the next steps for the project. So next slide, please. So this slide just summarizes the environmental assessment process for the project. It involves the steps that were taken up till now and what the remainder of the process involves. So as part of the early consultation process, letters were distributed to various agencies, organizations, and individuals, informing them of the project, and that was sent back in September of last year. We received comments from various agencies, organizations, and responded to them from September through November of last year. And after the early consultation process, we were able to finalize the draft EA, which was subsequently reviewed by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, or DHL. And after that, after finalizing the draft EA and DHL's review, the draft EA was presented to the Hawaiian Homes Commission last month on March 21st. And the draft EA will be published tomorrow by the state's Office of Planning and Sustainable Development Environmental Review Program. And the closing of the 30-day comment period will occur on May 9th. So if anyone has any comments pertaining to the draft EA, please provide those comments before that deadline. And finally, we are anticipating the completion of the EA process in the fall of this year. So that's pretty much a summary of the draft environmental process and what's involved. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to go over with you some of the project investigations that are currently in progress or future investigations. So first off, we list the investigations that are currently in progress. We are currently consulting with the state agencies on the environmental and archaeological investigations. And for the environmental investigation, we are coordinating directly with the Department of Health Office of Hazardous Evaluation and Emergency Response. And for the archaeological, we are working directly with the Department of Land and Natural Resources State Historic Preservation Division. And since the first beneficiary consultation meeting, the traffic engineer was able to put together a mobility analysis report, or MAR. And that MAR is pretty much just a traffic study or traffic report that models the project impact on the surrounding area traffic, and also lists some of the mitigation requirements that are to be implemented as a result of the project. And I'll talk about that later on in the upcoming slides. Next, we have the future investigations. We currently have an aerial topographical survey, which will need to be expanded to a land-based survey, which will provide additional information that will be used during the design phase of the project. Similarly, with the geotechnical exploration, we will need an updated exploration, and that will include additional borings as well as some additional infiltration test pits that will also provide additional data that will be used during the design phase as well. Next slide, please. So the next few slides will be summarizing the draft environmental assessment, which includes the findings mentioned in the assessment, as well as some of the proposed mitigation measures planned for the project. Next slide, please. So the impact on the project site and the surrounding environment will be similar to that of the neighboring developments. And we have listed some of those developments to the left. And we also have a map of some of those developments to the right as well. So as you can see, directly east of the project site is the Sea Country development, and directly to the west is the Palm Grove development. And lastly, we have the Ulukikue and Ho'omalu o Nakamali'i, which Darrell had mentioned earlier, that are within the project parcel and border the west portion of the site. And so like these neighboring developments, we will require grading and import of fill material, as well as construction of the interior roadways and the utilities to service the site. Also, best management practices will be implemented, I guess, during construction in order to limit pollutant discharge to the off-site areas. Permanent best management practices, or BMPs, will also be implemented after construction, such as that infiltration basin that was provided on our updated site, our current site plans, and that will be used to treat runoff after the single-family houses and multifamily units have been constructed. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, the project team is currently in consultation with the DLNR State Historic Preservation Division with regards to the archaeological remnants that may be found at the project site. So at the current undeveloped site, there's an elevated stone structure that may have been used as a railroad bed for the sugarcane plantations. The project is proposing to preserve the historic railroad bed by burying the structure with imported fill material and a building directly over it. So I've included a picture to the left showing the stone structure, and the stone structure, I believe, begins at the southeast portion of the site and traverses north, west, and ends at the center of the site. And so we have included also a cross section of the stone structure, which shows the stone structure in relation to some of the proposed utilities planned to be installed at the project. So the installation of the utilities will be installed in a manner that will try to minimize any disturbance of the railroad bed. I guess, however, for like the burial in place or proposed mitigation effort to bury the stone structure in place, we will have to coordinate directly with the State Historic Preservation Division, and we'll need to get their buy-off prior to the subsequent design and construction phase. Next slide, please. So as also mentioned, we mentioned previously, the traffic engineer was able to prepare a mobility analysis report, or MAR, for the project, and the report included a study of the traffic impact on the surrounding local area as a result of the proposed development. So MAR indicated that the proposed project would have a significant impact at the Kulapuni Street and St. John's Road intersection, particularly during the morning peak hours. So I guess the study resulted in 2 mitigation requirements. The first being a 4-way stop at the intersection of Kulapuni Street and St. John's Road. And the second mitigation effort to alleviate the impact of the project traffic would be to provide a signal timing modification at the intersection of Farrington Highway and St. John's Road. And that will help to improve the west and southbound left turn queuing at that intersection. In connection, a signal timing study would have to be completed and coordinated directly with the State Department of Transportation Highways Division. So both the study and modification would occur closer to home occupancy in order to obtain more reliable data. And it's likely because the project or construction of the project will be completed approximately 2028, which is 7 years from now. It's highly likely that the signals are likely to be retimed prior to then. So it's better to do the study and modification closer to when the single family homes and multifamily units will be occupied. And then next slide, please. So this is the final slide. So next, I'll just be going over some of the next steps for the project. So as I mentioned earlier, the draft EA will be published tomorrow by the state's Office of Planning and Sustainable Development Environmental Review Program. And we provide their website information on this slide. And so you can go to their website, and the draft EA can be found on their website for download. And yeah, so you can download it and review at your leisure. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the 30-day comment period the deadline will be on May 9th. So if anyone has any comments, please provide them before that deadline. And we are anticipating the completion of the EA process in the fall of this year with a finding of no significant impact. Following the EA process would be the consolidation and subdivision of the project parcels. And after that would be the infrastructure design and construction of the interior roadways and project utilities, which would occur from approximately 2023 to 2026. And following that would be the house design and vertical construction, which will follow from 2025 to 2027 approximately. And that will result in hopefully a home occupancy in approximately 2028. And as noted at the bottom of the slide, each project phase will be dependent upon the availability of funds provided for the project. So depending on how things are, the schedule might be adjusted depending on when the funds become available for each of these project phases. So those are pretty much the next steps for the project. And next slide, please. So that's pretty much it for our presentation. So for now, I'll just turn things back over to Andrew for the question and answer portion of the presentation.
Mahalo, Toby. And also, I just wanted to add that on April 19th, the department will be presenting this to the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board. That's correct. Yeah, Commissioner Tsuruya?
Sorry, yes, Andrew. At 7 p.m. at the Kapalehale, and we're also on virtual.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there'll be another opportunity for
Correct.
the department to share this project with the community. So thank you, Toby, for the presentation. Thank you, Darryl, for the presentation. At this moment, we would like to open it up for any questions or comments you folks would like to make. Again, you can type your questions in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand and I will call on you. So Vahilani did type a question in the chat. Do you foresee any pitfalls for funding of the project? I think what you're asking is what does the department foresee us receiving funding in a timely manner? Darryl, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I can. As you may know, There's been a lot of talk about a bill in the legislature, which would be giving the department approximately $600 million for development and other purposes. So we're very, very strongly encouraging anyone who would like to give their manao to the your legislatures to push that through. That does come through not only Voice of America or Māʻili, but a lot of other projects will also be moving forward. Right now, I think our chances are pretty good. Chairman, maybe you'd like to add something to that?
Yeah, thank you, Darryl. I can tell you that the project currently is in the Senate version of the budget. The House version does not talk about construction projects. So somewhere in the conference committee, we expect a compromise to be agreed upon and then come out, and then we'll see which projects are still funded at the end of the state legislature, which I think is scheduled to end on May the 5th. So we just need to stand by and everyone to call their senators and representatives and ask them to make sure that all of DHHL's projects are in the final budget. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo, Darryl, for answering Vahigani's question. That was a really good question, Vahigani. I also got a question directed just to me, so I think it's okay to ask in front of everyone. La'a is asking me, what is the projected range of home cost for this project? So I think you're wondering how much would the house cost? Darryl, is that something we can speak to now, or do we not have enough information at this time to really give a good estimate to La'a's question?
Well, I can give you an estimate of what our current housing projects are costing. The kind of Kaulua Kahai and East Kapolei, those are running about I'd say 275 to probably about 350, 400,000. That again, that's just the house alone. You'll be getting a 99-year homestead lease for $1 a year. There are also an option would be for vacant lots for people to build their own houses. And I've seen some of the package homes from say Hauntador or some of the other people that put housing kits together, ranging in the $150,000 to $250,000 range. There's also Habitat for Humanity and other self-help organizations who can also assist in both financing as well as house construction. So there are a wide range of opportunities out there. What inflation and other factors are going to be like 5-6 years out when the houses are already built, or also a big question mark. But we'll meet those and or meet those challenges and come out, talk to the community as we get closer to that date. We'll be keeping in touch with you all the way through.
Mahalo, Darryl, and mahalo, La'a, for that question. I also just wanted to point out that there will be a multifamily housing component to this project. So the prices, if they are offered for home ownership, would be different, or they could be offered for rental opportunities. So yeah, we, as Darryl said, we will keep you informed about the project as we go forward, and as more information becomes more firm and concrete, we'll let you folks know. Other questions or comments from folks? These are the 2 good questions we received so far, so keep them coming. Okay, Kapua typed in the chat. who else will be contributing to roadway and traffic improvements besides the Department of Hawaiian Homelands?
I'll try to take a stab at that, Andrew.
Okay.
At this time, we're not looking at any partnerships with any other agencies. At the same time, it doesn't look like there'll be a lot of offsite improvements needed. We may encounter some as we go forward, as other agencies look at the draft DA and our traffic analysis, for instance. But definitely all the on-site costs will be by DHHL, either through the ledge funding or our current trust funds. But yeah, at this point, it's probably all financed by DHHL.
Kapua had a follow-up question. What is the budget for these expenses? So I think Kapua, correct me if I'm misinterpreting your question, but you're kind of asking how much will the project cost?
I don't think we have. Cheryl, do we have an estimate yet on the cost? I think we have a very rough one in the EA.
Yeah, we do have a rough cost. I'm not sure if Kapua is asking more about the offsite improvements, outside of the project site, but and those, as Darryl mentioned, will be determined, as we move forward with different agency reviews, in particular, the State Department of Transportation with that intersection at Farrington Highway on the signal timing. And then the other one, the four-way stop that Toby mentioned, is that cost is not going to be too significant, I don't think.
Kapua clarified in the chat that she was referring to St. John's Road on Farrington, Kula'au Puni beyond St. John's. So I think she was referring to the offsite expenses for the project.
Yeah, right now, as far as Kula'au Puni, we have not, the traffic mobility analysis report did not indicate that improvement was needed there. But as I mentioned, we will be going through with the draft EA, we will be receiving comments from the City and County of Honolulu Department of Transportation Services. And also when we submit our construction plans, that's further down the road, they probably will comment or have asked questions about that. So that's something that is possible, but at this time, our traffic engineer has indicated that with the projected the number of units that we show, 280 units so far, they feel that that extension is not necessary. But there will be a lot of back and forth between the city and the the consulting team in the future.
Mahalo, Cheryl. Vahigani asks, will there be self-help options as well? That's a good question. It was what, oh, go ahead, Darryl.
Yeah, at this point, we really haven't done a lot of work on the different housing options. Self-help has been a component of a lot of the past housing projects in East Kapolei as well as the neighbor islands. So it's very probable that that will be, but it's something we'll have to address down the line.
And to clarify, at this point in the planning process, we're mostly focused on the potential environmental impacts that this project might cause and how we will go about mitigating those impacts so that this is a sustainable project that doesn't have large impacts on the surrounding community. So that's kind of where we're focusing most of our time. But as Darryl said, as we progress through the planning and development process, we should have more answers as we move forward. Okay, going back to the chat box. Virginia had a direct message to myself, and I think it's okay to ask this question to others. She asked, would you know or do you know who I would talk to about inquiring about my voucher? If you can clarify, Virginia, what type of voucher you're referring to? Is it a housing voucher? If not, you can type me in the chat to kind of clarify what you mean by what type of voucher you mean, and then I'll come back to it. Going down the chat, Kapua mahalo Cheryl for clarifying her question. Also had another question to me, and I will read it to the group. Will current possible Senate budget for mortgage assistance be a part of the 2028 open occupancy? So I think what you're asking is the proposed mortgage down payment assistance that has been proposed by the legislature, will that be a part of this project? Chair or Darryl, would you?
Sure, Andrew, I'll take that one, Darryl. Thank you. It is unlikely that would be a part of this project. The purpose of the down payment assistance, of course, is to allow those on the wait list to get into units as quickly as possible. So it's unlikely that there will continue to be funding of at the time frame that this project is to be completed, unless the future legislatures deem it to be successful and then continue to put in funds for down payment assistance. Thank you, Andrew.
Mahalo, Chair. Maria asked, what about rent to own? I guess, Darryl, you can take that one. I believe it's kind of similar to the answer that you gave to Vahilani earlier.
That's correct. We'll be looking at all sorts of options. There are enough houses or lots proposed in the subdivision to give a mixture of different development types, different home ownership types. But again, as Andrew mentioned, we are still in the planning environmental phase, so the housing options will be a little while off before we decide exactly how we're going to go with those.
Virginia direct messaged me in the chat again. She was referring to a housing voucher. I think, and Virginia, please correct me if I misinterpret your question. So I think what you're asking is similar to what was similar to the earlier question about whether or not the mortgage down payment assistance could be used for this project, which Chair answered that it's unlikely that it would be used for this project because of the time frame that the Ledge would like to see that down payment assistance dispersed to the beneficiaries.
Andrew, she may be talking about Section 8 housing vouchers.
Oh, okay.
Which is a city program. In general, we have seen those used. Well, those would be definitely eligible for the rental portion if we do the multifamily as rentals. But at the same time, I've also seen them used for mortgage payments. So that would be something as we get into the housing portion of the project, to discuss with your Section 8 representative as to how you can use that voucher. It's more their restrictions than the Hawaiian Homeland restrictions as to how they would apply to this project.
Okay. Mahalo, Daryl. And then Virginia also is telling me, no, she wasn't referring to Section 8 vouchers. She was talking about, and I think she's still typing. I'll wait for you to finish clarifying your question, Virginia, and I'll come back to you. But I think I think you're talking about the down payment assistance, but if not, let me know. So again, the down payment assistance that the legislature is proposing probably would not be used for this project. But beneficiaries who are on the wait list and interested in using or applying for that down payment assistance can use it elsewhere for fee simple purchase on Oahu or other places where they would like to purchase a home. Oh, okay. She said she's referring to a lottery that she went to years ago and did not hear anything from the department. So I think what would probably be good, Virginia, is probably to follow up with the Homestead Services Division on your place on the wait list and clarify where you are on the list. And I think based on that, it would help to also update your contact information if you have not been hearing from the department recently. So I will try to, if you go to the department website, which I will pop into the chat, the Homestead Services Division might be able to better answer your question. Sorry, I wasn't able to answer it this evening. Actually, Perlene, if you don't mind, can you go to the website and pop in where folks can go to for the Homestead Services Division? Okay. Other questions? Just wanted to mahalo those that did ask questions so far. These are good questions that I think a lot of other people probably had. So thank you for asking them. Oh, sorry, Perrine, can you pop in the DHHL website and then folks can go to there. Okay, La'a asked me another question. Will there be a homeowners association? I guess I'll answer that question. Most likely, yes, there will be a homeowners association. I think, well, I mean, there will definitely be a homestead association that would form as the lessees come out. Whether or not there's like a formal homeowners association, like a DCC in our community, probably not, but there will be a homestead association that the lessees, future lessees would form, that they could form.
I don't see the hand kind.
Oh, if you wanted to ask a question,
Reaction.
if you wanted to ask a question virtually, verbally, not virtually, you can do so. Sorry, let me go to the participants list.
So Emily, if you press the reactions, put your cursor on the reaction button on the bottom of your screen. Just press that and then you'll see raise hand. And you just press on that, yeah. And so then it'll put up a hand. Hi, Auntie Emily. Hi, Uncle. Hi, David.
Hi. We just wanted to know why it's taking so long before I die.
So I have a question.
Go
I know
ahead.
we have to raise our hand, and so I'm not too sure if it's my turn.
Go
but-
ahead, Nona. Go ahead.
So my name is Denise. So my mom is Nona. She
Oh,
is 88 years old, good to be 89. And, you know, we worry because 6 years from now is, you know, she'll be 94 or 95 years old. You know, we just pray every day. But what happens if, and, you know, so what happens if something happens to her, does the beneficiary get automatically called, or do you skip over her because she's passed? What happens? I mean, we need to know as a family.
I will take a stab at that question. Oh,
Good, Andrew. You can take a stab and I'll follow up.
okay.
Thank you, William.
If there is a family member that is also qualified to be a DHHL beneficiary, your mom can assign that qualified family member to take her place on the list. And Chair,
So-
yeah, okay.
So she's assigned, so she does have the granddaughter that is over 50% assigned. So that would not cause any concern if anything happened. It would just be an automatic.
Yeah, so what would happen is her successor that she listed on the successorship form for her waitlist application, as long as the granddaughter is 50%, would succeed to her place on the wait list in the spot that she is in.
Okay, so because I understand, you know, transferring from one person to another takes a long time with the department. So that is the concern if something were to happen. The other question I had was, I know this meeting is about Māʻili and, you know, that increment, but is there anything that is coming up even sooner in the Kapolei area?
Darryl, can you answer
Yeah,
that one?
I can take that, sure. Yes, we do have another increment of Kaulu'o Kahai, that's the East Kapolei 2. We have plans at the city now for approval. And as soon as those plans are approved, we'll be issuing an invitation for bids to contractors, hopefully by the end of this month. We have the contract in place by summer, give them notice to proceed, and it'll probably be about 1.5 years of construction time. So sometime in, say, late 2023 or early 2024, we'll be ready for house construction. And then that would be about 130 lots.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? I think I'll go back to the chat. Well, a question was, what if your loved one passed away? Are we still eligible for homestead? I think Chair answered that question. So if you do have a family member that is 50% or more, the applicant on the wait list can name that person as a successor to their place on the wait list. And then La'a had another question. she posted to me. Why no pharmacy clinic at the project? So I think you're asking why are there no uses other than homesteading planned at the project site. The reason why is that the department wanted to focus on providing as many opportunities for homesteading as possible because of the number of applicants on the wait list. We know that not only do we have a lot of applicants on the wait list, as we heard from others earlier, our applicants are getting older and they want to be on the land sooner rather than later. So we decided to try to put as many homestead lots on the property that is feasible so that we can provide as many opportunities for our applicants to get a homestead. So that's one of the reasons why there's no other facilities or uses planned on this site at this time, is we want to provide as many homesteading opportunities as possible.
Andrew, if I could jump in. Also, if you notice on the map, there's another 40 or so acres that currently leased to Kamehameha Schools. And one of the reasons we had leased that to them was that they were going to add some community facilities similar to what they already have. My understanding currently is that they're concentrating the efforts on the Nanakuli properties that they're currently developing, but they may come back to Māʻili once we're finished with that project to add more facilities there, more community type facilities.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Daryl. From Kapua, sorry, I may have missed it, but these homes units are the ones referenced in Senate Bill 3359, the 600 million bill at the legislature now, to include all the areas and neighbor islands. Right?
Yes, Andrew, the answer is yes. I think there's a total of about $500 million in projects. My understanding though is I don't think the Senate bill may not survive, but the projects may be shifted to the budget bill. So we'll have to look at the budget sheets tomorrow when they come out, Kapua. That's what I've been told that they're going to do, but we have to confirm that tomorrow.
Mahalo, Chair. Deborah asks, my husband is 50% and my children are only 25%. How are they eligible for the homestead if he passes?
Take down, Andrew. The answer is they would not. The way that the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act reads is that only a 50%er can succeed to a application. A 50% lessee can transfer the lease to a 25% successor. So that's the difference. So if your children are only 25% and the husband is 50, they would not be eligible to succeed for a waitlist position.
Thank you, Chair. Kapua, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I guess just to make it easier, I might have missed this one again too. Referring to Kula Aupuni, are there any plans that's going to go all the way from the Uluke Kukui corner to Kaukamana? So from like St. John's connection all the way to Kaukama Street, because that would save these folks a lot of, well, not necessarily a lot of, but in Māʻili we can get backed up And so it does make a difference for those of us that go past Māʻili. So is that road going to open up, and is there going to be some cost share with Kamehameha Schools, Sea Country, and any of the other developers back there? Because if and when it does, we will not be the only users. And so I'm hoping that we are not the primary funders of the public road. Mahalo, Andrew and William.
Thank you, Kapua. Daryl or
Yeah,
Toby?
that is
Yeah.
something that's been brought up, and I think would depend a lot on the kind of reaction we get from both DOT and the county Department of Transportation Services, what kind of comments they have. But it, Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our traffic engineer was hinting that it may be necessary also. As far as cost sharing, generally those kind of costs would be shared if a development was coming in and not one that's already existing. So yeah, there is a possibility of cost sharing with Kamehameha Schools if they go through with development of the rest of their rest of the land that they're general leasing from us. But the cost share with the existing communities, I think, is very slim to none. Cheryl, could you comment on the traffic report?
Yeah, so the traffic report at this time did not, I guess did not find that extension was necessary. However, as Daryl mentioned, if there are other developments that such as Kamehameha Schools, or if we do develop further into that property, then that's something that I'm sure would be addressed at the time. And like I mentioned earlier, this is still pretty early in the game, so we are definitely going to be consulting with the Department of Transportation Services and having them review the traffic report as well. So, this is something that could definitely come up in that process, either through the draft EA comment period, which is, going to start tomorrow, or, the time that we submit our construction plans. So yeah, it's and we will also be as Daryl and Andrew mentioned, there is a neighborhood board meeting coming up later this month. So we would like to hear feedback from those folks as well. I think and one of the things I think we should do is probably have our we'll take this back to our traffic consultant, definitely, and have them take a review that portion of their study and get back to all of you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I have a question in the chat directly to me from Helen. Her question is, will DHHL be providing homebuyer education workshops to help prepare families for upcoming offerings? I guess I can speak to that a little bit. The department has provided those opportunities in the past. These opportunities are usually provided through our holiday program, and they provide opportunities to beneficiaries, educational opportunities on homebuyer education workshops. So I guess to answer your questions a little bit more succinctly, yes, homebuyer education workshops is something that the department does offer. If you go to the department's website that Perlene dropped into the chat earlier and look for the holiday program, I think you'll be able to find more information on future opportunities. Okay, let's see, I got other messages. Deborah asks, will there be any agricultural land opening in the areas we can look for.
I think that the answer to that question is dependent upon if we can acquire any in YNI. There is talk of the ammunition depot in Luluole moving to Westlock. So if that was the case, then we would certainly put our request in for those lands that are in that area that could be used for agriculture developments and residential, depending on the funding that we have available at the time. Thank you, Andrew.
Mahalo, Chair. Thank you, Deborah, for that question. La'a asked a question to me. Is this a turnkey project or a multi-use award project? And La'a, please correct me if I misinterpret your question, but I think you're asking, is this a residential only project, or are there other uses that can be conducted as part of the award? So just real quickly, this is a residential project and not an agriculture project. So its primary purpose is to provide housing.
I think, Andrew, I could add that it's likely that there could be a turnkey portion, a vacant lot portion, and other types of residential offerings once we get closer to understanding what the environment impacts are going to be.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Chair. And then La'a also typed in the chat to clarify the question. Was she wanted to know if you can build your own. I think Chair kind of covered the different potentials that can happen. So a portion would be turnkey, but there could also be opportunity for what we call vacant lot, which is also owner builder. So we would give the lessee a vacant lot and they can build their own on the vacant lot. Mahalo, Perlene, for popping in the holiday program on the DHL website. Keolani asks or comments, sorry, unsure if this was already brought up. Is the plan to rent these units as is through realty agencies at this time? I've seen Craigslist posting for 1,300 2-bedroom rentals and open to anyone, not just Hawaiians. I think at this time, as Darryl may have mentioned earlier, but it's also always good to re-emphasize the information, is that right now we don't know what or if any units would be rentals only or rent to own or turnkey or owner builder. We don't know what the mix of products are at this time because most of our time is right now concentrated on analyzing potential environmental impacts. But as we move through the development process, we should have a better sense of what the products are, whether it be turnkey, vacant lot, rentals, or rent to own. We'll know as we move forward further along.
Andrew, can I jump in and okay, so for the person who entered that into the chat, if you see or come across any Craigslist or any kind of advertisements for renting on Hawaiian homelands, and they emphasize to anyone that you don't have to be Hawaiian, please let us know. That is a violation of the lease. Hawaiians can rent to other Hawaiians, 50% Hawaiians can rent to other 50%ers with the permission of the commission. That's the only legal renting that can occur on Hawaiian homelands in the residential situation. So if there are any ads that you see, please forward them to our office. We will follow up with our compliance division. Thank you, Andrew.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo Kealani for that question. Deborah asks, are these home are going to be on the ground or stills? So I guess, are they
Too
going to
early.
be, yeah.
Too early, Andrew.
So yeah, to answer your question, Deborah, we do not know yet. Right now, we're concentrating on studying what the environmental impacts are going to be and how and where we're going to put in the infrastructure to support the subdivision. But thank you for your question. Okay. Just wanted to mahalo everyone again for the questions that are being asked tonight. Very good questions. Okay, I see two more just pop in. Okay, Kapua has a comment that we could perhaps show a zoomed out picture of the residential development in Māʻili to include both St. John's Road and Kaukama Road in future presentations. Okay, so yeah, that's good. We could provide a map that shows a larger regional perspective of this development within the context of the region. And then Kapua goes on to say, speaking of developments, are there thoughts to not call this a homestead? Just notice it's called residential, or is that to distinguish it from pastoral and ag? Yes, it's to we're calling it residential to distinguish it from the pastoral and agricultural homestead leases. So this will be a residential homestead lease. Okay, so Helen writes, so she checked out the Holiday Program Services website. It says that the enrollment is currently closed since July 2021. Do you know when the department will start to offer the home buyer workshops again? Off the top of my head, I do not know, but we can follow up with our holiday program to see when they will be opening up services for home ownership again. So we can follow up with them. If you put your contact information in the chat, you can send it just to me so you don't have to share it with everyone. We'll forward your question to the holiday program, and they can get in touch with you when the next set of educational services will be available. So yeah, if you can leave your email address in the chat, and we'll follow up with you on that question. Sorry, we don't have the answer tonight. Denise, thank you for your comment. And then have other thank yous in the chat box. So we're coming up at 7:40, so we do have time if you folks have other questions or comments. But if you're like me and you need time to just kind of think about what you heard this evening and you have questions later on, I'm just going to put the department's planning office email in the chat. So like, if you're driving to work tomorrow, or you're eating breakfast tomorrow morning and you're like, oh, I should have asked that, you can always email us later on with your question and we will get back to you. With that, okay, we have a question. So I'm interested in receiving information about the holiday program services. Okay, we will follow up with you on that. Oh, and I just realized I sent the department, our planning office website directly to Helen and not everybody. Whoops. I will send it to everybody. Deborah asked, there's a rumor that they want to pay off the people who are on the list. Is that true? I think what you're referring to is the mortgage down payment assistance that the legislature is proposing. Real briefly, what that program is proposing is that the department would receive funding for the legislature, from the legislature, to give down payment assistance to those on the wait list who would like to purchase a home. And they can purchase a home anywhere in Hawaii. But in exchange for receiving that down payment assistance, the applicant would agree to remove themselves from the wait list. So that is what is being proposed at the legislature right now. Chair, did you want to add anything else, or?
I think you covered that one good. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Kapua asks, or sorry, doesn't ask, but makes a comment. Another suggestion would be to put the date years on the project timeline, since things can change and dates slip further back. That's a good suggestion. Thank you, Kapua. We'll make the revision before we go to to the neighborhood board. Nita asks, makes a comment, the 2-bedroom and studios advertised on Craigslist is at Ulukekukui, and it is just supposed to be short-term until DHHL takes over for construction. Thank you for that comment.
Andrew, real quickly, there's a distinction between Ulukekukui, which is a general lease to a developer who's supposed to be redeveloping what was the transitional homeless site into rentals, versus a regular homestead residential lease. That's what I was referring to. So if there are any references to renting on a homestead lease, and it's directed at non-Hawaiians or anyone less than 50%, then that would be a violation. So I just wanted to make the distinction between Ulukekukui and a regular homestead residential lease. Mahalo.
Okay. La'a asks to me, parking is always a problem in any development. What are your ideas to solve that problem? Daryl, Cheryl, or Toby? Any comments or preliminary thoughts on how parking is going to be handled in the proposed development?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cheryl. Yeah.
For the multifamily area, there would be parking provided, and because we do know that these are going to be low, maybe 2-3 story buildings. So parking would be provided in those areas, and then probably street parking, garage parking and on-street parking, as possible within the single family areas. And that's what we envision at this time.
Yeah, that'll be something that we'll definitely look at through the design phase. One thing that we've been doing in East Kapolei is we're having the houses set back from the road by at least 20 feet or so. So that would give you room to park 1 or 2 cars on the lot, as well as in the garage and whatever's left on the street. So, I mean, even that is been problematic at times because some people have 3, 4, 5 cars in their family. But in general, I think that's one solution is to move some offsite, make additional room in the house plans for on-lot parking.
And these lots are not, they're, 5,000 square foot lots. So they're not the smaller lots that you see nowadays, in other, the other subdivisions like, like say Core Ridge or Ho'opili. They have smaller lots in those subdivisions. So, parking is tighter, but here, the department has always provided at least 5,000 square feet. So like Darryl, what Darryl is suggesting that, there will be, we'll try to, when the house designs are, come up in, 5 years from now, I think that's something that will be considered.
Mahalo, Cheryl. Mahalo, Darryl, for that answer. And thank you, La'a, for the question. Kapua says, scratch my previous comment. And then thank you for the reminder, Perlene. We will be posting this presentation and the recording of this meeting on the same website that you folks used to access the meeting tonight. So the meeting and the PowerPoint, as well as meeting notes, will be posted on the website. IL asks, who is likely to get an offer for this development? Are you looking at applicants that joined the waitlist during specific years? To answer your question real quickly, the department goes in order of the waitlist. So the waitlist is ordered by whoever, by seniority. So whoever signed up on the waitlist first. So their date of application, whoever has the earliest application date is who we will be offering first. And then we will work our way down until we get folks that are interested in the project, and we fill all the openings on the project. So to answer your question, we always start at the top of the wait list and work our way down. Thank you, Kapua, for your comment. Mula'a has a comment or a suggestion, perhaps look at 3-car garages as part of the design of the houses. So I think that's an option that we can take a look at, but we just got to make sure it fits in the square footage of the lot. Kapolei asked, will the department consider making some homes with a master bedroom on the ground floor of the 2-story homes? I think I will have to go back to our previous answer is it's too early in the process for us to really know like how the houses are going to look like for those that are going to be turnkey. But it's definitely a comment that we can consider is to put the master bedroom on the ground floor. But those types of design considerations won't be made by the department until a couple years from now, after we get through the environmental assessment phase, which we're currently in. But good questions, everyone. We're coming up on 7:50. So we have about 10 more minutes left in our meeting. So So just a reminder, April 19th is the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board meeting. The department will be presenting a similar presentation at that meeting. So if you folks have the time and opportunity, please check out that meeting. Oh, okay. Emily asked, how large would the lots be? For the single family lots, Cheryl had mentioned that the lots will be 5,000 square feet. For the multifamily homes, do we have an estimate about how large the multifamily units will be at this time, or do we not? Darrow, Cheryl, or Toby?
Yeah, the multifamily buildings, we don't really know at this point in time.
Okay.
That would be something that, we would look at down the road.
Okay. But the single family lots, they will be about 5,000 square feet.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Any last call for questions or comments? Again, if you think of questions or comments, you can contact us at dhhl.planning@hawaii.gov. Feel free to email us and we will get back to you. We'll also probably put your questions in the meeting notes with the answers as well. And we'll be posting the meeting notes to the department website, same website where you folks used to come into tonight's meeting. One last question just popped in from iPhone directly to me. Can my stepchild be my successor? The answer is, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone from DHHL, but the answer is as long as the stepchild is a qualified DHHL beneficiary, which is 50% Hawaiian blood quantum. Tasmin asked, for the down payment project in the legislature, was there a dollar amount? I believe oh, go ahead, Chair. Go ahead, Chair.
The current language in the House version is up to $100,000. So it says up to. It doesn't say 100,000, but up to 100,000.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Chair. And thanks for the question, Tasmin. Okay, one more time, last call for any questions, comments. If none, Chair, did you have any closing thoughts or comments?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight to join us and all the good questions that they asked. If there are any other questions, you can also contact the contact center, and then the appropriate division will follow up with answers to the inquiry. This is the very beginning of a process that's going to take several years, dependent on getting funding, and we understand that people have been waiting a long time. We can only move as quickly as we receive resources to develop the infrastructure and then make the lots available for homesteaders to either purchase a house or build a house on that. So thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. And I do want to thank staff and consultants for all of your hard work tonight. Especially to you, Andrew. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Chair. It was really Darrow and Perlene and Cheryl and Toby that put in the bulk of the effort. I'm just here, so thank you to them. With that, I hope you folks have a great evening. Again, thank you for your time and sharing your time with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for joining in tonight. Exciting, and thank you to all the our consultants and our team. Just wanted to thank the team for presenting this to our community, and we look forward to working with the HHL and staff to move forward. So thank you, everyone. Aloha.
Mahalo, Commissioner.
Aloha, mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Aloha.